New Teacher Academy, November, trainers. This time we're going to be talking about classroom assessment. I want to walk through the slides very quickly and just kind of give you a heads up of what's going on. Within the slides, when you look at them, I will send those to you. You will have notes that are embedded in there, so you feel free to look at those. Some of those are the notes that I'm talking about here. So you can read those also. You will also get an instructor's guide and a participant's guide, and you can work with those to match things up. I will refer to participant guide stuff. I will have that printed for the participants as well as a handout for them, and then there's other things that you're going to have to print out for them. Talk about defining assessments and looking at what they are and what we want to do that. So we will start out by forming groups, and they will use the participant guide on page 8, kind of look at what assessments are and answer questions on page 9 and do that type as a group activity. And then just kind of start telling them what assessments, how they're defined, why do teachers assess students, how it motivates and improves achievement, and then the power of feedback. And in page 7 in the participants guide talks about some of the objectives and things, so you might be something that you want to review with them and how that relates back to the assessment on how and why we assess and do different things. Short time for reflection here, but this would be more of a group reflection. You've already got them in groups for the last activity. Let them kind of reflect there, and then from that you can kind of generate a poster with some of the reflections on the importance of assessment and CTE. Stay with where I'm going. And then we're going to look at formative and summative assessments and what are the difference between them on your pages. And the participant guide 11, 12, and 13, there are some scenarios, and this will be something where you'll work with them and go through the scenarios and assign groups. You can print off extra or have extra ones and assign extra groups, and they can compare each other's what they think about the assessments, purpose, what does it measure, and who's doing the measuring for those. So take your time to go through that little activity with them and let them give you feedback on that. And then on the next 5 slides they'll be taking notes, and they'll do that on page 14 of the participants guide. So you just kind of walk through these and discuss and talk with them, and then as you're doing that, they should be taking these notes from the slides and the conversations on those things. And basically it's looking at the formative and summative and the difference between them, and looking at those and the research findings for each. And finishing up on slide 15. Slide 16 on this one. This might be a time, I mean, it's talking about putting it on a card, but this might be time kind of a reflection. Have a couple of spots for them to respond to both of these. Instead of on the front side and back side of a card, use 2 different post-it notes and have some place where they can actually get up, stretch, and place them on there, and then maybe ask them questions and give them a chance to respond verbally if they choose to, about what their responses were to those questions. The next activity is a unit plan. There are 7 unit plans that I will send you. Print those off. If you have a large group, print off extras, and you can have 2 groups doing the same unit plan, but you kind of judge how you want that to work and how many groups that you're going to need for those, but you'll need to make the copies and then have them, they'll use page 15 of the participant's guide to pull information from those unit plans, and then you'll go through and ask some of these questions here and pull responses out of them based upon these questions for that, and that'll be a pretty good activity to work your way through. Then you're going to look at formative and summative, the 2 different types. Page 16 gives you a lot more specifics about the 2 different types, how they're used, why they're used, when you shouldn't use them, as well as don't overuse them for different things. So take a look at those and work your way through those and talk about them. There's also on page 17, there's an activity if you have time, and you can work that in and adapt that for that authentic task, adapt it, use that during your time. There's also a mentor guide thing. You can talk about that. Once again, that's an if you have time. Large groups you may not have time, smaller groups you may have time, so where you can look at that with them and talk to them how they may handle that back at their own school with a mentor. And then we're going to go into rubrics, ask them the questions, see what they know first, and then jump into what rubrics are. And then we're going to give them some examples. Once again, in the participant guides 20 through 23 are examples of rubrics. So take those and talk through them and look at them, have them read through those list of rubrics there and talk about them with the participants. And then once you've kind of looked at those, then the next activity is using rubrics. How do we use them? And then there's an article. I will have this article pre-printed along with the participants guides that you can hand out to them, so that can be done. And then you can divide them into groups and have them read the article in groups, kind of as a jigsaw fashion, where they're not reading the entire article, but they're just reading sections of it. And possibly that's a time saver, where then they would feed back to the entire group what they've read. That way they're not working, waiting for the entire group to read the entire article. So just ideas for ways you can do it. Base it upon your group and how big it is, and the amount of time that you have for doing those things. Then you're going to look at how you introduce rubrics to students. How do you get them involved in those, because those are things that they would be using from the beginning. Page 24 in the participant guide talks about how to get students involved even in the creation of the rubrics, not only in just using it. Once again, there's an authentic task. This is a time thing, depending on if you have time, and you can see whether that would work into something you could do at the session. You could adapt that to where you could work with that and add in there as an additional activity. If not, it'd be something that could be done that they can take with them or walk away. And then another think about it, the authentic then think about it question. Once again, they could use post-it notes, have a parking lot that they could go place those on, and then if you have time, allow them to verbalize some of the responses for that. It's also a field activity. Once again, if you have time. This is a time factor. If you have time, this would be a good time to talk about, are they assessing 21st century skills, and what are those 21st century skills? Page 26 in the participant guide talks about that. So if you have time, you could adapt that and make that work for you, and give you a chance to look at that and how those are assessed. And then we're going to look at a rubric for rubrics. This would be something they're going to want to keep, laminate, have around to where they can evaluate what they build as rubrics throughout the years. And that's on page 27 of the participant guide. Take some time to look at it. It's got 3 sections, but within each section there are multiple things that you would look at as far as the rubrics for rubrics. And then we want to judge a rubric. Now, normally this would call for them to bring a rubric in. We didn't have them do that. So what I want you to do is you to bring some rubrics that you've created. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. And then let them use this to evaluate your rubric. And talk about why. Give some of, what's their strengths, what areas are not so good. And then that way it gives them a chance to actually practice evaluating a rubric and how that would work, and talking through it with others. And they can do that in a group setting also. So depending on how many groups that you think you might have, they could all be evaluating the same one, but it'd be nice if they each had different ones that they could be grading. So you bring in what you need to make that work. The last thing will be an evaluation of rubric websites. And they give you some on page 28 of the participant guide. What you need to do is to check those out, be ready to show them things on those websites, hopefully things that are within your content area, to show them that they could use. If it's a bad website that they can't use, it doesn't pertain to their area, tell them to mark it out. There's nothing there for them. But try to find some that are there for them. As an experienced teacher, you should have websites that you've gone to find rubrics or build rubrics. You should probably have textbooks that have given you websites and different things. So list some of those, create more slides here to add in that would take them to those so that they could copy them down on this sheet and use them for future reference to do things. As with anything that deals with the web and stuff like that, kind of give them the warning and a heads up, and maybe if you have time to do a little bit of talk to them about working with their IT. You have something and then all of a sudden it doesn't work at their school. So site to site, school district to school district, the things that they are allowed to get to on the internet are different. Let them know that. Let them know that if they're having troubles, then they need to go talk to their IT people about doing things or finding alternative ways to get the things that they need to use, that they could either download or get it to a fashion where they could use it in their classroom. And their IT people should be willing to work with them on doing some of that. If you have questions, let me know. I'll be sending you the PowerPoints, the connection for this video. I'll be sending you participant guide, instructor's guide, and the agenda. We're at the Metro Technology Center, and we're spread out all over the campus, as well as one group will be in the South Bryant campus. So check your agenda, see where you're located, what building you're located in, because everybody's in a different building. And if you have questions or you need stuff, let me know. Thanks.